Hello, Collateral Gaming listeners. Chazzle Dazzle here from the Trial by Error Variety Show podcast. I just wanted to take a few seconds to invite you guys over to what we do. No, it's not video games, but we do invite really awesome and unique bands from all over the world. We dig deep into their souls and find really cool stories to tell you, and there's tons of music every week, so subscribe to us wherever you subscribe to your podcast. We look forward to having you.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
And I'm Beau Maddox.
This is Collateral Gaming. Welcome to a very special episode of Collateral Gaming, the only video game podcast that matters, where we focus on good games, bad games, and everything else in between in the world of gaming. We are podcasting straight from somewhere in South Texas, and yes, my friends, I emphasize this particularly this episode. This is a 420 friendly podcast.
Oh, yeah, man, and we just got through smoking up so many bowls.
Hell yeah, we did.
Oh, man.
A little bit late on 420. We're a couple days behind. Whatever, sue us. We did actually end up playing this game on 420, so it counts.
Yeah, it does, and what a fun time we had playing it. I mean, this is such a classic game in so many ways.
Such a classic game, but guys, whatever you have, be it bongs, blunts, dabs, Delta 8, Delta 10, anything marijuana related, smoke it if you've got it. Because, yes, guys, this is the 420 special, and there is no better way to celebrate 420, I think, than getting super stoned and playing a classic stoner game.
Yeah, especially on original hardware like what we did here.
Fuck yeah, that's kind of what it's the cherry on top, you know. It kind of just makes the whole experience so much better. Of course, we're talking about GoldenEye 007, the 1997 adaptation of the Pierce Brosnan movie, developed by Rare.
Yeah. I mean, Rare has made so many classic games for the N64. I mean, it's kind of a shame what happened to them in the end, but man, I mean, GoldenEye 64, it's kind of a perfect storm of, you know, classic multiplayer, you know, solid campaign modes, and also level design that isn't really half bad, to tell the truth. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm actually impressed with how good this game is for its time. I mean, by today's standards, the controls and the graphics might seem dated, but when you consider what this game meant, you know, in 1997, what this was capable of, you know, you actually have pretty good AI, enemies that react to things like their comrades dying and and shots being fired near them. Something that sometimes you don't even see in modern games with shitty AI. So the AI is actually top notch. The fact that you could shoot enemies in different body parts, I know this is standard now, but at the time this was groundbreaking, and it's a movie video game. Like, who would have thunk it? Apparently the team that worked on this at Rare were fairly inexperienced, I heard, and maybe that's kind of what worked here, because you had people that watched the movie and wanted to make a game that was as close to the movie as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, it's been a while since I've seen GoldenEye, like a very long while, but I mean, from what I do remember of it, this game actually brings up some pretty classic moments, like the dam, like especially the dam scene, which is kind of the iconic part of the movie, you know. Mm-hmm. And this movie recreates that, and that's pretty.
This game recreates that, Beau?
Yeah, it does.
You said this movie.
Oh my god!
It's okay, guys. We're high, and this isn't being edited.
Of course not. But yeah, they recreate most of the movie like beat by beat from what I remember of it. So
I haven't seen the movie. I've seen Pierce Brosnan, James Bond, I'm sure, at some point or another. I've seen clips, but I don't think I've seen GoldenEye. And I've seen a few Bond films, not a lot. Mainly, I think the Daniel Craig stuff, to be honest. But yeah, no, like I'm familiar with Pierce Brosnan, James Bond. I just don't remember watching this movie from start to finish. So I don't really have any of that to draw from. But from what I've heard, yeah, it is very beat by beat. I mean, down to like some of the details and, you know, some of the things that Bond actually does that you see him do in the movie. Like you said, like the dam scene where he bungee jumps off the dam, right?
Yeah.
And or, you know, like there's a scene, I guess, in a train where you cut open a window in the train or something.
Yeah.
You know, and so they really actually got it down to, it's impressive. I rarely see, you know, video game adaptations of movies that go to that level of effort to try to remain true to it. So it's something that, you know, like if you watch the movie, you're thinking like you're actually playing the movie now, and that's incredible. Like I said, I think because you have a team of developers that weren't just trying to create something to sell a product, but, you know, like you probably had people that were fans of the movie, or, you know, at least went to the effort of watching it and trying to, you know, to use it as a source of inspiration either way.
And especially knowing that this was on the N64 and an engine that, I mean, even for its time, I mean, some people found it a little dodgy to develop for. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, for them to pull this off just with that engine and actually, you know, make such a recreation of the movie, it's impressive. And you know, looking back on it, I mean, yeah, a lot of the graphics are a little rough and everything. I mean, let's not act like, you know, a lot of stuff from this era aged well, you know. But
no,
this right here has actually aged spectacularly well for its time, and especially if you get some type of device that could actually upscale your graphics and everything. I mean, it actually looks pretty fluid, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to see this game enhanced a little bit. I mean, I bet you could make it pop out a little bit more, and yeah. And I think when I mentioned that it's dated, the graphics play a part in that, but not as much as I think the controls do. I think the controls are a little awkward. They take some getting used to. But here's the thing. Once you've mastered them, you can actually get good at this game. So you can actually compensate for the controls, you know, and this kind of applies with playing a lot of retro video games that were at least designed well. The effort was into making responsive controls that worked. And so once you like learn to master it, then, you know, you can getting headshots like a motherfucker, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like you remember like when you and I were playing in the multiplayer, which we'll talk about, of course, but you know, there was a certain point where I just kind of figured out the physics of the throwing knives.
Yeah.
And being able to aim them very quickly. And so, you know, I started kicking your ass for the first time during the throwing knife.
Yeah.
And then after that, I guess I sort of applied that logic, and I kind of figured out quick headshots in this game. It's difficult because, you know, you have the tank controls. You have what I... It's actually very similar to Metroid Prime controls. That's the one experience I can draw from. I mean, like you said, it's tank controls. You can move, you know, forward and backward, and you move the stick to rotate. Strafing can be done, and in GoldenEye, that's done by the set, you know, by the left and right C buttons, which works. So you just have dedicated buttons for that purpose, and then up and down on the C buttons will actually rotate up and down, so you can look up and look down. But if you want to actually free aim, you have to press and hold down either the L or the R button. And so, you know, and you have to stand still while you do that. Metroid Prime did the same thing. You know, you have the general tank controls, the ability to, you know, it's moving back and forth and rotating, but, you know, if you hold down a button, you can strafe left and right, and then, you know, of course, if you hold down another button, you're going to put yourself in the free aim mode, but you're standing still while you're doing it. That's difficult. That's the part that really that's really difficult. I mean, you can kind of adjust for the tank controls. You get used to them after a while. They're a little awkward at first, but it doesn't take long to get into it. But it's mastering when to use that free aim mode and being able to do it quickly in the heat of combat, pull off a headshot, and then back away. Mind you, when you're in the free aim mode, the second you take your thumb off the stick, it actually snaps back to the center of the screen. So you have to constantly hold it in one area.
Let me tell you, that is the one mechanic of this game that I feel hasn't aged all that well, especially given how nowadays with FPS shooters and everything, you know, aiming is very precise nowadays. Like, but even on a lot of those games in this era, you know, you were starting to get some more precise aiming. You were starting to get into stuff like Counter-Strike and whatnot on PC and everything. But yeah, I just found that to be really janky, dude. And then it led to a lot of confusion during multiplayer, you know, which honestly, I mean, it just made me just run and gun a lot more than actually try to aim or anything.
Yeah, you do a lot more of that. But when you're in a situation where you can kind of actually practice the free aim in the middle of combat, you know, it takes some getting used to, but eventually you can start pulling some shots off like that. But there's other times where it's perfectly possible because of the aim assist, which is very generous in this game, mind you.
Yeah.
The aim assist is very generous, so you can sort of run and gun quite a bit and get through the game, actually. That you're going to be doing a lot of that. So, like I said, it's definitely playable. You know, you can tolerate the generational differences and the lack of, you know, modern controls. But you know, it just takes some mastery, and that's what I enjoy about it. I will say though, a port of this game coming over to, like, say, the Nintendo Switch or, you know, even other consoles would be great. I would love to play this game, maybe remaster it, but otherwise just kind of leave it alone and port it with modern controls. Chef's kiss.
Yeah, definitely. Like, especially with the aiming, man. I mean, I feel like it would be a lot more precise, you know?
Yeah.
The free aim mode just never felt very precise to me.
It's not. In fact, there's a lot of moving around, but maybe it's kind of more similar to real life in that aspect.
Yeah, in many ways, but I mean, if in real life, I mean, if you train to breathe properly and have the right stance and everything, you should be able to straighten and align your shot.
Well, in later games, that's actually a thing. You know, in Call of Duty, when you use a sniper rifle, there's a button that you have to hold to steady your breathing.
But I'm sure that they had that even in this generation of gaming. You know, I'm pretty sure on some of the Medal of Honor games they started to kind of have that with their sniping and whatnot. I mean, it's, I don't know. It just it's the one thing that I think kind of knocks the game down a peg as far as the controls are concerned.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I 100% agree. Like, that was the main thing for me, is that the controls do make the game a bit hard to play. And part of that owes to the Nintendo 64 controller being kind of objectively a shit controller. I mean,
it's something that was way cooler back in the day when it came out, because it was like, I mean, that was the first, you know, real analog stick that you saw on a mainstream controller. You know? Yeah,
no, credits for that. Kudos for the first analog stick. That was cool. And whenever the DualShock ended up, you know, incorporating the dual analog sticks, that really changed the game.
Yeah, that set the new standard pretty much.
But PS4 paved the way for that, right? With introducing the analog stick in the first place. So respect to that. Nintendo's just always tried to make, you know, up until the more recent generations of gaming with, like, the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch, up before that point, Nintendo was doing their best to be quirky and, like, have their buttons all, you know, like, look at the GameCube controller.
Yeah.
You know, or look at the Wii, which is just completely different than anything else. Hell, even, like, looking at the Switch controls, considering the fact that they're Joy-Cons, you know, they're a little bit different. Nintendo embraces the quirkiness, but let's be real, right? The three handles, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, what was the point of that? I mean, it wasn't very ergonomic. Like, whenever you're using the stick, it does kind of feel like you're holding the controller at an angle.
Yeah, and also, why remove face buttons? SNES had X and Y, right?
Yeah.
And I guess they were thinking, oh, well, we have the C buttons, but that's not the same. The C buttons you've defined as being the option for camera controls.
Yeah.
Right? And so, or primarily that's what you would use it for. So why remove the X and Y buttons? I think that's another thing the Nintendo 64 controller suffered from, and this game maybe kind of suffers from, is a lack of available controls. You know, there's only so many controls that you can use, and yet this game actually kind of masterfully it takes advantage of those.
Yeah, it overcomes those obstacles a little bit.
It does, but it would be better with modern controls, though. I'm gonna say that. But at the same time, though, it is kind of part of the experience, so to speak. I mean, there's something very nostalgic about playing it with the Nintendo 64 controller. I think that's something that, if you have the opportunity to do, you should do.
Definitely, yeah. It's kind of like, how some people, they prefer to play, the GameCube Super Smash Brothers with a GameCube controller because
still
it's just,
to this day, because of Melee, competitive players swear by the GameCube controller and they use it, and that actually was a much more ergonomic controller. But it's kind of goofy too, right?
Yeah. Like, for instance, the C buttons are actually a joystick all of a sudden.
But it's a smaller, not as good joystick.
Yeah, it's not like a true analog.
It's not a true analog stick.
Yeah.
And so and you've got like the weird face buttons, the big looking A. But then again, it kind of worked because, now you had a button that was just more obviously an action button.
Yeah.
But with the Nintendo 64, something that I kind of struggled with was a lot of the buttons also look alike. Like, I'm not ever quite sure whether I'm hitting A or B. I haven't really, that hasn't reinforced in my mind yet which one's on top and which one's bottom. It doesn't help that the colors are green and blue instead of green and red like everything else that came after.
yeah, right.
But so I constantly had the issue of like accidentally like changing my weapon instead of reloading and shit, and not remembering which button's the interact button.
Well, all I gotta say is wait till you actually pick up and play a Dreamcast controller if you haven't before.
I've seen a Dreamcast. I don't think I actually played with it, but
those controllers are weird, very weird. Like, instead of an actual memory card, you have that little VGA memory device. It has like a little LCD screen on it and everything, and it was very strange. Like, it's difficult. Like it had a single joystick, but it wasn't really that good. Like, I mean, the controls for something like Soul Calibur was pretty okay, but
yeah. But I mean, GoldenEye, to its credit, was just it's so technically impressive. I think it did everything it could with the hardware that it had, and it works really well. This really set the precedent for first-person shooters. I mean, it wasn't the first. We had Wolfenstein and Doom before this, but
those were very proto first-person shooters. Like, I mean, the point of those games is run and gun gameplay. It's not as nearly as strategic as, say, GoldenEye. GoldenEye is where you really started to first, and also to a degree like something like Medal of Honor. That's where you first started to have a little bit of actual strategy in what you were doing. Or getting into Rainbow Six, where you actually had like tactical gameplay. I mean, you really started to see that type of element of first-person shooting, strategy being used, and you see how that's evolved into like the Call of Duty games or the Halo games. It's, you can kind of make a straight line between, games like this and games like that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
and for instance, I feel like this game has much better controls than Resident Evil 4 did of the same game generation. Like, I don't know, I just never got behind the Resi 4 controls. They're so awkward to me.
Was Resi 4 in this generation?
It's PS1, right?
No,
or was it PS2?
Resi 4 is PS2.
You're right, it is
Wii.
PS2.
Yeah. Resident Evils 1 through 3 is in this.
But see, I'm okay with Resident Evil 1 through 3 because they aren't as action focused, and the controls work for what the game is. But I remember playing Resident Evil 4. Okay, so a game that came after this, generation-wise, further emphasized my point.
Yeah,
the controls in that are just weird to me. And for a game that came out on the PS2, now, like, I think I forgave it originally because I thought like, well, this is quirky. There probably wasn't anything better at the time, but there was before that.
Well, you have to remember that Resident Evil 4, that originally came out on GameCube, so a lot of the controls were very GameCube-centric. You're
right, that did come out on the GameCube. But see, here I'm talking about Metroid Prime. Metroid Prime worked. Metroid Prime never felt awkward to me. Yeah. So, I don't know. We're getting off topic, but we're high as fuck, so...
Yeah, right.
Let's talk about the multiplayer a little bit, because...
Oh, yeah, the fucking multiplayer. Man, we were having a little bit of a blast there. man.
We were, man, and I think that's the ultimate like stoner experience right there. Because coming into this episode, there's probably been a dozen and one, podcasts that have talked about GoldenEye. So, but we're gonna try to bring the maybe not unique experience, enlightening experience of playing GoldenEye while being extremely high.
On original hardware. On an original N64 with N64 controllers.
And core to that experience is the multiplayer.
Yeah. I mean, and that was what really made GoldenEye so revolutionary, is that's really the first person shooter that had multiplayer like that outside of the PC.
Yeah, and you had motherfuckers had to set up cardboard dividers so that you don't screen shoot.
Yeah, exactly. No. Here, I mean, you had split screen multiplayer action, 4-on-4 usually, or you could do 2-on-2, and I mean, you're relegated to that screen, and you make do with it, man. And it's like that's just how gaming was back in the day, and to me, it was just so much more of a primal and more intimate experience back then.
Definitely.
When you're in a room with 4 motherfuckers and you're playing something like Smash, or you're playing like GoldenEye 64, I mean, it's a competitiveness that I think kind of translated from like the arcade generation a little bit. That type of competitiveness that that was the original type of multiplayer gaming right there, was arcade gaming.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was where you had those first real types of competitive bouts, with like fighting games and also with shooting games and racing games and whatnot. Like, I mean, for fuck's sake, there's motorcycle racing games that are like multiple motorcycle kiosks set up, and it's like almost like 8 players in one race and everything.
Yeah.
So I mean, that kind of translated well over to the console, and that was like the first time that we were able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, except for maybe the more primitive LAN parties that people would have back in the day, which you could totally do with an N64 and with a PS1 mainly. Like PS1s were very LAN friendly. Like you can, like if you had a bunch of copies of Duke Nukem Total Meltdown, like you could totally play Duke Nukem multiplayer on like with like 16 players or whatever.
Well, and at the time, the Nintendo 64 was the superior hardware. That was the first console that was not only 64-bit graphics, but had 4 slots, and they had the analog stick.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it was almost like a perfect storm for a game like GoldenEye to really take hold, as far as multiplayer is concerned. And it kind of set the standard for what multiplayer gaming, especially with first-person shooters, would look like for, like, generations. Like, I mean, look at the split-screen multiplayer for, like, the early Call of Duty games. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are also really, really, intimate and competitive situations. But that also started to introduce online gameplay around that time, like Xbox 360 and whatnot.
Yeah, but with the multiplayer in GoldenEye is that the split screen gameplay holds up extremely well. I'll start with that, and yeah, I mean, you're gonna screen sheet when you have the opportunity to. I remember, like I'm sure we were glancing at each other's screens when we weren't sure where the other person was, and
that was kind of part of the strategy of playing in a multiplayer like situation.
It kind of is, right? And you don't really get that in the online multiplayer. But I mean, I remember even playing Call of Duty that way with my friends and with my brother and whatnot and my sister, like we would actually we would screen sheet, and that was kind of part of the experience, there's an additional strategy.
It's one of those things, kind of like cheat codes and everything that wasn't necessarily as looked down upon as it is nowadays. I mean, cheating, it makes sense to kind of look down on cheating, what with, the advent of competitive online gameplay.
Right, if it's competitive.
And also, leagues and everything and whatnot, like ranked gameplay. Like, it makes sense to not want to cheat there, or for, like, speed running. Like, you don't want to do cheats for speed running either.
Like, we were trolling the fuck out of each other. At one point, I turned on the invisibility cheat just for shits and giggles to fuck with you.
Yeah, then I didn't realize it, and then I'm just like, wait, where the fuck are you? How are you hitting me? It's like, God damn it.
Yeah, we played this with cheats. We tried the DK mode. We tried the paintball mode. Fucking slow animation, turbo mode.
Man, that came from an era when cheating in gaming meant just accentuating the gameplay and making it more fun. Like for instance, a big head or a Donkey Kong mode like what we have here. It's like, I mean, that's just a silliness, you know? It's like it's specifically made for multiplayer gaming. It's the kind of shit that I miss from video games these days.
Well, it definitely enhances the replay value. It breathes life into a game that maybe you feel like you've done everything, and well, now it's, okay, let me go through the campaign and unlock all of the cheats. And then, you know, if that's what you want to do, or in our situation, just fucking go look it up. I mean, at the time, you didn't have the internet at your disposal, but if you happened to be able to find cheats and, you know, you knew somebody or you read it in a gaming magazine, then fuck yeah, you know, you open up cheats and surprise your friends. You know, there was just kind of another element of that. There was more to explore, whether that was going through, you know, the regular way of the game and unlocking cheats by accomplishing things. It was kind of a proto achievement / trophy system, so to speak. Or just experimenting with shit and surprising your friends.
Well, the experimenting shit goes into stuff like Game Shark and Game Genie. Like, to me, that was a whole nother level of that. I mean, that was more like game breaking in a way. You were practically kind of hacking your game a little bit.
Yeah, and I fucked with like Game Shark and whatnot, or I think there was another version of Action Replay. I had actually, I didn't even have Action Replay, the accessory. I had the Action Replay Zelda Twilight Princess game that was like, I think it was exclusive to Best Buy. It was the only place I saw it at. GameStop wouldn't even give me money for it.
Oh wow.
And anyway, it was like a separate disc you could pop in, and then or was it like a memory card? I can't remember how it worked.
It was probably a memory card.
It was probably a memory card. But you pop that in, and then you know, you had the ability to play Twilight Princess with some of the cheats, but they didn't even have like the cool ones like moon jump and shit.
Yeah.
You know, just the regular stuff like invincibility and whatnot. But this game has that, you know, you can get infinite ammo, which we turned on, and that just made the multiplayer more fun for us.
Yeah, because you could just kind of, you know, just unload on each other, you know? Like, I mean, if you don't have invincibility on and everything, I mean, you could just keep murking each other over and over again for like 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, we didn't turn invincibility on because I figured, like, what would be the point? We'd just be killing each other.
We would just be
like never killing each other.
We would just be bullet sponges.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fun.
That's all we would be. But I mean, the single most fun game mode out of them all, the best weapon to use was slappers only. It was like, how could she slap?
That's right. We did that. How could she slap? Like, that was like our thing. Like, we would turn on slappers only and just keep slapping each other.
Yeah.
And I try to surprise Beau by like fucking, okay, I found some fucking body armor, and he's like, why are my hits not hitting? I'm like, body armor, motherfucker,
bastard.
But you know, I even kind of turned it into a thing of like, okay, I'll only put on the body armor when I'm low on health because it prevents me from getting a game over. And, you know, you probably still have to get the same approximate number of hits in on me anyway.
Yeah.
So I started doing it that way. I made it a fair fight. And I told you where the body armor was, and I encouraged you to also body armor yourself up, bruh. And I still kicked your ass.
That's because, I don't know, it's just such a small hitbox for those slaps. I still haven't gotten the flow of it.
That's the thing, is it's like it's just getting the feel of it, right? It's like everything else in this game. Maybe that's easier for me when I'm high, and I think that's another point that I'm going to add to that, is that when you're high, it's easy to just sort of concentrate on something and put blinders on, and you don't notice other shit. And so you just sort of, or at least for me, I intuitively kind of I feel stuff more.
Yeah.
Things become more intuitive to me, and I don't have to think about them as much, which is nice because most of the time my autistic ass analyzes everything and nothing comes intuitively. So, you know, that's, but with GoldenEye, I think it's enhanced by that. I felt like, you know, I had better concentration playing the stoned out of my mind.
Yeah, it really lends well to high gameplay. It really does.
And normally I like to say that anything that requires too much strategy or anything that requires, you know, or is too difficult, you know, it's going to be not as fun to play while high for most people. But I would say this is a very special exception in that case, because it's not it's challenging on like your reflexes and your general sense of strategy, but it's not like complicated puzzles. Now, me, I like to play even that shit while I'm high. Don't get me wrong. Like I'll play, but I'm never gonna recommend Zelda as like a good stoner game because I don't my brain's not like other people. This I do wholeheartedly recommend as a stoner game for anybody.
Yeah, and it was a stoner game even back then. I mean, it just completely like took gaming by storm, especially when it came to stone gaming, which. I'm going to tell you the truth. In that particular generation, I wasn't really smoking weed at all at that time. So I never really got to experience it back in the day like while high. But, experiencing it now that I'm almost in my 40s and, I've been smoking weed for a little while. It's like, it's a different experience altogether.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the same for a lot of our listeners. This is something, you played in your childhood. So it's not something that you probably were high while playing. But, maybe if you were fortunate enough to be college age whenever this came out, then, this probably was, the perfect game that you'd see in like fucking, college dorms with that entire aesthetic. But otherwise, you likely didn't play this while stoned, right? But now this would be a great time to revisit that. And that's maybe what we're trying to say here is it's a good time to, if you have original hardware, fuck yeah, do it.
Definitely.
And you can pick this game up for like $20 if you don't have that for some reason that I couldn't fathom. Like Robert not having Ocarina.
Yeah, what the hell is that?
And
right?
even if you don't have original hardware, right? I would recommend playing this, emulating it if you can. N64 emulation is pretty widespread now. I mean, you don't even have to have a good computer for that shit. You can. I think there's even N64 emulation in browser, although it's not very good.
You can even get emulator cores on RetroArch as well. If you have a PS Classic or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are N64 cores on
But you're going to need the DualShock controller.
Yeah, you're going to need or a 8-bit DOE N64 controller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll need an analog stick. This game just doesn't work without one. I mean, it would actually be impossible to play without it because there's a whole other missing control there.
Oh, I have some ROMs on here, and I can actually get them to work. I can get them to turn on, but you can't do anything because I don't have the controller for it.
Yeah. So yeah. So if you have the opportunity, there's also a remake of this game that I haven't played, but apparently, throws Daniel Craig's face in. So it's sort of a reimagining of the movie / remake of the game. So that's actually kind of cool that they actually made it Daniel Craig. I think that's honestly that was honestly a good move on their part. The reviews aren't as spectacular though.
So I've heard.
Yeah.
I never really got around to playing it, so I can't really say one way or the other.
But it's a remake that came out on the Wii, and then it was later ported to PS3 and Xbox 360. So I think it might even be on Game Pass or.
So it was on the Wii, huh?
Yeah, it was.
Do you think that maybe the motion controls had something to do with the bad reception? Maybe.
Or mixed reception. It
Mixed
was either
reception?
mixed or fairly high, depending on what version. But yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, like you could make the Wii, Metroid Prime 3 came out on the Wii as well as the remakes of the Metroid Prime games, and those play great with the motion controls.
There were very few games on the Wii that really played with those controls well enough.
But it would have to be designed for those controls if you were just well, it was though, because they remade it. So yeah, it might actually be good. If it's as good as Metroid Prime's is, then yeah. But I don't know. I haven't seen any. I haven't really read any reviews as to why.
It would be interesting to compare them. I mean,
yeah, I'd like to check it out.
Yeah,
I take that back. It's probably not on Game Pass, and it's definitely not on PlayStation.
No, it wouldn't be.
No. I guess it's now part of their PlayStation Plus. One of their premium subscriptions. Extra or something. I need to.
PlayStation Extra. They have a bunch of bullshit now.
Well, they did the right thing. They just didn't do it very well.
Yeah, I got you.
That's something I think we'll get into more whenever we do our next numbered episode and we have our game news segment. I'll maybe kind of break it down and do the research on it. But yeah. Anyway. So yeah, no, I don't think this is the game you'll find on either of those or its remake because. Well, the reason this game hasn't ever been ported is probably because of licensing issues.
I would imagine so. I mean, I'm not really sure how long the licenses were set to expire or anything, but man, it would be great if they could get it back and they could try to fucking do something with this.
Yeah.
I know that Rare is no longer a thing anymore. They shut down a long time ago, but
somebody owns the rights to this.
And they have to have the source code somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like you can emulate this shit. It's very, very possible. You just have to spend money with the right person, I think, to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I was thinking is, this game definitely should get it ported at least to Switch. That would be great. Put it on the Switch Online service on the Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
Online service. That's, just throw that in there. It probably wouldn't be that hard to make that deal happen.
And then find a way to incorporate online game multiplayer and everything.
That would be a dream. And give people the option between, controls that are going to be more like the original controls or updated controls.
Here's an idea. Make it into a fucking arcade cabinet. And then because that's kind of a thing, is like remaking retro games and putting them out in the arcade.
That would be dope.
That would be awesome, right?
Yeah. But I could even see this game getting ported over to PlayStation and Xbox, because I think it's just essential. It's fundamental to what first-person shooters are today. It definitely standardized, While it wasn't the first-person shooter, it was like the first-person shooter, it was the one that definitely revolutionized and standardized, made it a thing,
Yeah, it may not be what you would call the first modern first-person shooter. I would argue that that's probably one of the, at least on consoles, it's probably one of the first Call of Duty games. Probably has that, honor. But this is where you really started to see what would become multiplayer gaming today take form.
Yeah. And it's a shame that Rare didn't end up doing any of the other Bond games because, I don't know why they wouldn't, I assume licensing has something to do with it, but I don't know why whoever's licensing developers wouldn't use, the critical and commercial success of GoldenEye because, at the time it definitely surpassed expectations. So it would have made sense for them to allow Rare to continue to develop Bond games, but all's well that ends well because Rare ended up doing Perfect Dark. That would have been a Bond game probably. They just changed some characters. And
changed the story around.
Changed the story,
and
there you go. It's considered the spiritual successor to it. So, and I've heard that Perfect Dark is actually a little bit better of a game.
A little bit. But that game was pretty awesome. Yeah.
But this is the one that was the prodigal son, so to speak. This was the one that just that just took the world by storm, and we saw. I don't think Prodigal Son was a good analogy.
Like the progenitor of this.
I think I'm just thinking of Prodigy. Prodigy.
You mean
Prodigy.
The Prodigy. I'm the fire starter.
I'm just thinking of a Prodigy. Yeah. Anyway, did I mention that we're stoned?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're very, very high. Very high.
But this is the game that stood out, that started it all. And anything you owe the genre first person shooters, especially multiplayer first person shooters, to GoldenEye.
Yeah, it's pretty much part of the fabric of first person gaming. Period.
Yeah.
I mean, think about how horror gaming has evolved because of the first person viewpoint.
True. The Resident Evil games that ended up incorporating that were fucking fantastic, and it took them up until just a few years ago to do it, but...
Yeah. Well, I mean, they originally tried to do it on the PS1 with Resident Evil Survivor to very mixed results.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm just thinking of like the main series games.
Let's just put it this way. There is an Angry Video Game Nerd episode
Isn't
on
that
Resident
one
Evil
on the
Survival.
rails or something, though?
Yeah, it's pretty much a first-person rail shooter.
Okay, well, if it's on the rails, then no.
No, but you still had first-person movement in it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was linear and everything. It was linear as hell, but, I mean, it wasn't like a light gun shooting. You could use a light gun, but it wasn't like that.
Okay.
Like, you could still have some free movement there. So, technically, it was a first-time, first-person Resident Evil game.
Okay, gotcha.
So, it was an early attempt at it, at least.
Yeah, Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, and Resident Evil Village actually did that much better.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and around that time when Survivor came out, by that time, Resident Evil Code Veronica was already out on Dreamcast and was already, like, completely redefining the series in its own right. So...
But... Yeah, but, even that, like I said, the reason that ended up happening... GoldenEye, man. GoldenEye set the standard. GoldenEye was the thing. And I think that even if it does feel dated initially, once you play with the game a little bit and adjust for the controls, it's a totally awesome experience that surpasses a lot of what modern gaming has to offer still.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. How old is this game? It's almost 30 years old, right?
Yeah, 97.
It's like, geez, it's like, and it still holds this much weight. It's kind of like Final Fantasy VII. That's another game that is important. It's an important game to its genre, and it stands the test of time even above, most modern games. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I kind of liken that to GoldenEye a little bit.
Yeah,
in its respective genre,
Right, I gotcha. Yeah, no, that actually makes a lot of sense. No, actually, and the graphics of this are actually pretty good considering. I mean, it's the enemies don't look like too polygonal or anything. They look like people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's better than some of the early PS1 character models you could see on certain games.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, dude. Totally awesome, bro.
Totally awesome, brah.
Totally awesome, brah.
I lost my train of thought, but I guess we'll go ahead and get into our final thoughts here.
Well, first off, I want to recommend another game from this generation and from the N64 that I think is probably kind of just as fun as GoldenEye, and that's Turok Dinosaur Hunter.
Okay, I've heard Turok.
That's another early first-person shooter that was also interesting in its own right. It had its own little world, and it eventually led to its own multiplayer game called Turok Rage Wars, which was a game that I have a lot of nostalgia for. That's another good arena shooter and everything. It's really cool, but as far as this game is concerned, like pretty much everything we said earlier, it's like this is an important game in gaming history. It's an important game in Nintendo's history and an important game in Rare's history. Like it really elevated a lot of players in the game here. Like
yeah,
it's what gave Rare a little more legitimacy. After even more so after the Donkey Kong Country series and Killer Instinct and everything.
Yeah, definitely.
And of course, this would lead to like Banjo-Kazooie, which is, another classic 3D game that they made.
Right.
But, Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much where it's not where, like we said, it's not the first modern first-person shooter, but it's where modern first-person shooters gets their ideas from. You know, it's like as far as multiplayer, as far as the campaign, as far as the level design, as far as, you know, how the guns are rendered and how they shoot and how they feel and everything. It's like, I mean, this set all those standards, and it's awesome to go back and play it, and, you know, just kind of it can be bare bones in certain ways, but, you know, you really just there's so many things about it that's familiar enough that, you know, you could go back to it and you can kind of just catch up on it, and you can just get into the world of it and everything. You can get into the multiplayer element, you know? I mean, we were having a fucking blast playing just the slap only
Just the slapping.
Just that alone is so much fun. It's and challenging even. You know, because it's a challenge to actually have to get up to your opponent to slap them before they slap you.
Yeah, or fucking, you know, making holds in the bathroom in the facility.
Yeah, exactly. You know, or shooting through windows and everything. It's like that's a mechanic that was introduced here. Like, I mean, yeah. So many ways that you could go into this and fucking have a good time. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun going back to this. It was a lot of fun playing multiplayer. Like, that was a good nostalgic experience. I mean, that took me back to that era of gaming, which was pretty much like my era of gaming right there. Like from Super Nintendo all the way up to the PS3. That's my era of gaming. To me, PS3 is where gaming ends, kind of, for me.
Okay, I understand that. I can,
you know,
I can definitely see that.
But I mean, yeah, it was great to go back and play this and have a little bit of a nostalgia trip, you know, and always fun to play Nintendo 64. You know, regardless of what you want to say about the controls, it's still a great experience picking them up.
It's nostalgic as hell.
It feels great, you know, just like picking up a an old school PlayStation controller, you know, or old school Nintendo controller. I mean, it's just perfect.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. One interesting little tidbit before my final thoughts. Did you know that the sounds, the grunts that they make whenever they die, their sound effects, those sounds are actually on a loop. They're not random.
Huh.
So, some information that I found courtesy of actually the Retro Blast podcast. Shout out. I listened to your episode on this and I thought it was pretty good. Subscribe to the show. Anyway, but what I actually found out is that those same sound effects, that no matter what, like, they always play on a loop. So you can actually, if you can watch videos on this, but, you know, every enemy you shoot is going to play those sound effects in a specified order, and then it loops around again after 20 or so sound effects. But apparently those sound effects were used in the Jason Bourne movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What? Seriously?
Yeah, no kidding.
That's hilarious. No way.
Yeah.
No way. They were reused in a movie.
In the Bourne movies.
In the Bourne movies of all movies. God
Apparently
damn.
other things, I think there are other pieces of media that have used those stock sounds, and it's not clear whether those were originally stock sounds, or at least I'm not sure if those were, you know, from something else before GoldenEye, or if those were actually made for GoldenEye. But either way, that is pretty fucking cool.
That is interesting. It's almost kind of like a lost media thing. It's like, where did that shit actually come from? You know, it's kind of like we know where the Wilhelm scream came from.
Yeah.
We know where that came from. But it's like, where did this shit come from? It's
possible somebody actually does know. I haven't actually researched it. But
yeah, okay.
It's just something I heard on a podcast.
That's interesting. That's pretty cool.
So I thought it was worth talking about, because I think that is pretty neat. That, you know, a piece of this would be in Bourne, like.
Yeah, it actually makes me want to go watch the Bourne movies, like listen to the loops and just like kind of figure out where they're at, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sure there's I'm sure there's probably some videos on YouTube that point them out.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'll just look it up. You know, if we're wrong, then DM us or DM our friends, the Retro Blast podcast. Not our friends; they don't actually know us, but we like you. I thought your content was pretty good. Anywho. So I guess that's just about it. My final thoughts with GoldenEye. I think it's a phenomenal game. I am going to let you guys know, like, I hadn't really played it before this. Maybe, like, at a McDonald's or, like, at my church or something where they had a Nintendo 64. I might have played a couple rounds, or I might have watched somebody play a couple rounds, but I don't actually remember, getting my hands on this until now, until we prepared for the podcast. But we saw it in Robert's collection. I knew I wanted to play it. I knew I wanted to talk about it. And even coming from something that I don't have that nostalgia factor for, I still think it's fucking fun as hell, man. And so that actually says a lot, I think. Because my first console was the GameCube. Now, I have friends, people in my same age group that grew up with Nintendo 64s, but the first console my mom actually allowed me to own, that bought for me, was the GameCube.
Now, my first technical console was the Atari 2600. My mom had one. Yeah, she had Asteroids, Battle Tanks, I think Space Invaders maybe. Mm-hmm. But my first actual console was the Super Nintendo. Yeah. I was old enough to get a Nintendo, but my mom and dad didn't have enough money at the time. But around the time the Super Nintendo came out, they finally had enough, and that was my first actual gaming console.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, even coming from that background, even having never watched GoldenEye, the Pierce Brosnan James Bond film, I still really thoroughly enjoyed this. And I bet the enjoyment is even more, when you have that nostalgic factor, or you have that connection of having seen the movie. I mean, I think that's something for a lot of people growing up, is something that you can't really take away, is their experience with this game, their memories of this. And that's phenomenal. It lives on in the hearts of people. Even if you don't have a chance to play GoldenEye, you can just emulate it. But even, you know what I mean? Like, even if you don't do that, I think there's something in it that a lot of our listeners can remember GoldenEye and kind of have fond memories of that, and think, yeah, fuck yeah, that would be a fantastic game to play while stoned, and I hope you do it.
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of fun getting high to play this. Rolling blunts even to play it.
Yeah, and I can just recognize that, I was pleasantly surprised by how modern this game is, given the era, Like, it has its quirks, it has its difficulties, but, the fact that the AI and the AI was pretty good. The controls are actually responsive. As long as you have good hardware, and you can pick up a Nintendo 64 controller for $20.
Yeah,
at your local game store,
and you can get a decent one, that has a more responsive joystick and everything than original hardware controllers. So yeah, definitely look for one of those.
We went over to Game Over.
Yeah, what brand of controller did we get? There's the box right there. Let's give it a little shout out. Like,
it's a Captain Premium controller.
Nice.
From Hyperkin, I guess.
From Hyperkin? Okay, yeah, I think I know what that is. Yeah.
Okay, so, and we bought this over at the Game Over by 1604 in Bandera in San Antonio. That's a pretty cool store. All the employees there are friendly, and they do try to upsell you, but it's shit that you actually want.
Yeah,
when I have a little bit more money, like they talked about, they showed us the Super 64 enhancer.
Yeah, that was really cool. They even showed us an example on YouTube of the difference between just regular composite and this upscaler. Yeah, and it was like, wow.
And I'm pretty sure they had GoldenEye. We didn't need it because we have it, but we picked up another controller. I saw Perfect Dark there. I saw a Nintendo 64 there.
Yeah, dude, we need to pick up Perfect Dark, like 100%, and we need to track down Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Oh, fuck yeah. So I actually have played that game on original hardware.
Nice.
I was over at someone's house, and I had the pleasant experience of being able to play that while incredibly stoned.
Did you
wait a second? That's the Nintendo 64 game that we really should be talking about on 420.
No shit, dude. Yeah, maybe next 420 that needs to be a thing, and I will definitely play that game and fucking be on that episode, because fuck yeah, man. I mean, yeah, Conker's Bad Fur Day. That's a great game. And a great story behind that game as well.
Yeah, maybe we should just make the whole month of February just 420 shit.
Maybe. Yeah,
because I know, because we were also talking about
April, not February. April.
Did I say what?
You said February.
Shit. Dude. April, the whole month of April, and I think what we had planned was Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah, and that's also a good stoner game. Totally.
Yeah.
From the N64. And isn't it funny that there's a lot of good stoner games from the N64?
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of interesting?
But we were actually, I was saying, if we're talking about Smash, it makes sense to kind of just go ahead and talk about Smash Ultimate because it's objectively the best.
Yeah.
But I will say that Conker's Fat Bad Fur Day would actually be even more fitting.
Yeah.
So we should definitely do that, and then maybe also do Smash and just make the whole month of April both episodes.
That'd be cool. Awesome.
We might as
Fuck
well.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
But we should we could probably do that in Collateral Cinema too. Just go ahead
That's
and do
well. That's kind of what we used to do.
What's what we used to do?
Yeah. Until we kind of scaled it back to one episode, but I don't know.
Well, we do one episode and we do one director's cut episode. So
Yeah.
you know what? That's probably what's going to end up happening.
Yeah, we're probably going to have to.
Probably going to
do
be
it.
a bonus round. One of those is going to be a bonus round. I think Conker's Bad Fur Day should actually be our 420 special, though.
Yeah, and then next April.
There you go. You heard it here, folks.
All right, there you go. Yeah, next April, Conker's Bad Fur Day.
We'll make it happen.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. We may as well go ahead and try to track down a copy of it.
Yeah, for real. That'll be a lot more. That'll be a lot more cheaper than anyway.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, anywho, what's going on with Collateral Cinema, Beau?
We are currently releasing our 420 episode where we talked about Evil Bong. We finally got Robert on the fucking episode, finally.
Yeah, and we finally got the episode out yesterday as of the time of recording this.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard it yet, go ahead and listen to that. And we're about to do our season finale. We are going to do Sidekicks, directed by Aaron Norris, starring Chuck Norris and Jonathan Brandis and Meko. And also Beau Bridges, too. There's a Beau in this fucking movie.
Nice. And it's not Beau Derek, thank God.
No, thank goodness it's not Beau Derek. Oh, Lord. Yeah, there's just going to be random fucking naked 14-year-olds all of a sudden. It's not going to be good. It'll never be good.
No, not at all.
No.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm happy to see Collateral Cinema have a successful season. Also, we just hit 10,000 downloads on Collateral Cinema.
Yeah, 10,000 collective downloads, we've released so much content over the last 5 years, our numbered episodes, our director's cut episodes, our commentaries, and also other such things, our At the Movies episodes, those are always fun. But, it's crazy looking back on the last 5 years and just, we started this shit in my originally in my buddy Joseph's living room, originally, and then eventually in my little bedroom, and it's just grown from there. And I'm just like, wow. There's some podcasts that have grown a little faster than us, but, I like to think that we fought for every single download, and it's great that, we were finally able to break that threshold, before the 5th season was over. It was good. And also to get over 5,000 followers on Twitter. That was another big milestone. So, hell yeah, follow us on Twitter. We'll follow back 100%. We don't have the follower cap anymore. We can follow you back. So,
hell yeah.
Follow us on Twitter.
Yeah, and fortunately we didn't get to have Robert on this episode, but we did have the pleasure of being able to get stoned. And I think we played GoldenEye with Robert.
Yeah, we did a little bit. Yeah.
We did a little bit. We actually have 3 controllers now, though, and we haven't had a chance to do that.
No.
And that would have been cool. But yeah, no, we're gonna kind of make that, I think, a regular thing going forward with the 420 specials, because both of my other co-hosts on Collateral Gaming don't smoke, so I'm just gonna do that with you and Robert.
Fuck it. Yeah,
it'll be a thing, So, by the way, Beau here is a guest of a recurring guest / bench host, I guess I could say.
Yeah, more or less. I've been on and off this podcast over the years.
Recurring guest, I guess, is the most fit / my co-host on Collateral Cinema, and always awesome to record with Beau whenever it comes to retro games.
Yeah, that's mainly the bailiwick I want to get into is retro gaming or arcade gaming. I believe that we're going to do a bonus round with focusing on classic fighting games, I believe, which that's going to be fun because not only do I have a bunch of classic fighting arcade games on my PS1, we can also go back to Version's Game Room and check out some of the fighting games they have there. So,
yeah.
Hell yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, Beau, thanks for being on. Then we're gonna make this a regular thing where it's probably gonna be the original crew on the 420 specials, which means that 420 specials moving forward might have a bigger emphasis on retro games.
Yeah, probably retro gaming and maybe even some movie-based gaming here or there.
Exactly. But coming up on Collateral Gaming, we are going to be talking about Anthem. That's going to be our bad game review this season. I'm actually happy. I'm stoked to talk about it a little bit. I'm not stoked. Excited, I guess, is the right word. Stoked is like, oh my god, I can't wait.
I've at least
to talk about this game.
I've at least seen the what happened video from Matt McMuscles on that, and yeah, that's very interesting how that came to be.
And I've seen a few reviews. I've listened to a few podcasts as well. We're definitely going to get into it on the episode. The troubled development, all of it, because we're doing it as a bad game review. It's a Collateral Gaming versus episode, but it's not as much of an objectively bad game as some of the other stuff we've done in the past. More so, though, it's huge disappointment for I think fans of BioWare, and I also think that it definitely is held back by a lack of development. I don't think the game is finished. I mean, I think it suffered a lot of the issues that we later saw in Cyberpunk. It was something that was hyped up and just failed to deliver to the point that they abandoned the game. Like a couple years into after release?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, if you're going to put something out that half-assed, I mean, why even put the effort into it at all?
Yeah,
by this point, why even spend the money?
Completely abandoned it. So yeah. Anyway, we'll be talking about that, and then I guess we'll go ahead and announce our the rest of our season. So we're going to be talking about Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice in May, and then in June, hopefully, we'll be ending the season with Fire Emblem.
Nice.
Yeah. There may be a few game launch reviews in between. Then definitely going to continue to upload bonus round episodes. In fact, I think a 420 bonus round episode is in order. 420 director's cut as well. We should figure out what we want to do.
Yeah, let's try to get it out before the end of the month.
But actually, I think the next thing you're going to see from both of us is the Sonic episode we still haven't done.
Oh yeah, we still have to do the Sonic episode. That's
we
right.
went and we saw the movie, man. We got to talk about it. We promoted it. Let's just do it. We'll record that sometime over the next couple
sometime
days.
soon. We're gonna have, and I want to go ahead and say that I've gotten back in touch with the Retro Anime Podcast. Hopefully, we will get our Cowboy Bebop mega episode together, and we can collaborate with them, and that will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of post-season, inter-season content, so to speak. But it's the other part of that episode that was meant to air.
Yeah, it's kind of you can call it a lost episode, I guess.
It's gonna happen at some point. In fact, anything we've ever announced on either podcast is gonna happen at some point.
It'll happen eventually, sometime.
Right?
Not really sure when. Maybe, I don't know.
But
I don't know if Robert was here. Is like, I don't know. Sometime we'll have to talk to your agent.
I don't know. I can't.
I don't know. I can't. I won't.
Talk to my agent.
Talk to my second-grade teacher.
He's here in spirit. It's his Nintendo 64.
Talk to my mechanic
that we used to play this game, and we had a blast. So happy 420, everyone. I know it's not actually the day yet, but it's April, man. All of April is 420 celebration time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like we do anything different all 364 other days of the year anyway.
Right.
But it's a great time to just reminisce on cannabis, the culture that's arisen, and get super fucking high. Play some GoldenEye if you get a chance to. If you have the ability to do that, do it.
Definitely do it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Wholeheartedly recommend for anybody listening. I guess that's really all there is to say. You can find Collateral Gaming and Collateral Cinema wherever you get your podcasts. We are on Spotify, Google, YouTube, Apple, wherever. And check us out on Patreon as well. We have exclusive Let's Play video game commentaries and full-length movie commentaries on the Collateral Cinema side. So $1 and $5 tiers, paying any amount of money will get you access to those. And as I always say, when we start seeing more money coming into that, more content is going to come out of that for sure.
Definitely. So yeah, please consider contributing to our Patreon. Our tiers start at $1, going up to $5. We're keeping it, it's just straight and simple. So just check us out and support the show, everybody. We would love it. We got 10,000 downloads out of y'all. Like, I'm sure we can get some money out of y'all. I mean, shit.
And if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, feedback on your platform of choice, whatever it is that you can do on Spotify. If you want to do it. Like the video on YouTube. You know what I mean. And go check us out on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, including our Facebook group, Collateral Media Podcasts.
And also check out Collateral Cinema on Good Pods. We've charted a few times there. We're thankful for that. We'd like to get a little higher on the charts, so check us out there. Follow us, rate and review us, and listen to us there.
Fuck yeah. So, anywho, guys, have a happy fucking rest of the month of April. Smoke a shit ton of weed and stay safe out there.
Hell yeah.
Collateral. Well, hold on.
Uh-oh. Are we that stoned?
That being said,
are we that stoned, dude?
yes, we are. I don't even think we're even that consistent with the outros anyway. But
I don't know.
That being said, I've been Ashley Chancellor.
And I was Beau Maddox, I think.
Beau Maddox of Collateral Cinema, occasional Collateral Gaming, recurring guest.
Allegedly.
This has been Collateral Gaming. We are out. Collateral Gaming is a Collateral Media podcast. All music and game clips are owned by their respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.